This is Rich, Tennessee Homestead. How the heck are you today? This video is going to be about looking for a new mama and appropriately titled. It is basically how do you take an orphan calf or a calf that you've went out and purchased and get the nurse cow that you're wanting to put that calf on to accept it as one of its own. Uh, some basic common sense and some basic knowledge of how cattle bond to one another, how they recognize their young. Um, Things of this nature really kind of comes into play here. Plus, I have a few shortcuts taught to me by some old timers that I have found that works very, very well. You definitely want to do this right because failure to do it right can actually lead to the cow hurting the new calf. And of course, you don't want the new calf out there in the pasture trying to pick its own mom. That is a disaster that's just waiting to happen and will happen. You'll suddenly have to put that calf back on a bottle because nobody has accepted it, nobody has bonded with it. So it's a pretty simple procedure. Following a few basic steps works. So without further ado, get your pen and pencil and let's get to it. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about bonding a calf to a surrogate mother. Sometimes it becomes necessary, or maybe just be for pure profit, of bonding a calf onto its mom, or onto a new mother. This first scenario I'm going to talk to you about and give you some forewarnings on is the newborn calf that may have become orphaned. Could be from several things, anything from the mother died giving birth to the calf not being willing to suckle, and it sometimes boils down to mama just rejected that calf and wants nothing to do with it. If so, you need to be prepared to step in and take it from there. The second scenario that we want to talk about is the calf that you went out and purchased to graft onto a nurse cow to rear it, which is the best way to raise a bottle calf, unless you're really into spending a lot of time and a lot of effort to keep that calf alive, healthy, and up and running, because it does get very time consuming. So what you want to do is, if you have a nurse cow available to you, get that calf grafted onto that nurse cow so that she raises that calf. If you properly graft the calf to the nurse cow, you'll have absolutely no problem whatsoever with her raising it as her own. Matter of fact, Bella did a better job with an adopted calf as she did with her own. So let's get talking a little bit about how do cattle bond to their calves. How do they recognize it? Well, primarily by scent. And that's how the herd also recognizes them. By the calf smell, they know who that calf belongs to. I mean, if you look out in the pasture and there's 150 black cows running around out there, it can confuse the heck out of you, and for sure could confuse the heck out of the cattle. The fact of the matter is they know their calves by their scent and also by their sound. You will hear a mother calling to her calf, and that calf knows mama's voice, and the mama knows that calf's cry. You'll see where there could be 15 mothers out there in the pasture, and a calf start crying. Usually only one of them gets overly upset, and that is the actual mother. So let's look into this just a little bit and try to get you a little bit prepared for, if this is your first time with cattle, how to handle it. So you went to bed at 9 o'clock. There was no calf on the ground. You checked them. Hopefully you have your cows in a maternity ward where you can keep them close up to you. But at 9 o'clock that night, no calf. At 6 o'clock the following morning, you walk out the door and you see this little one standing there. Still has its umbilical cord, was born that night. You're just not sure at what time. You better have the proper supplies. If mama is no longer available or has rejected that calf, first thing you're going to need is a bottle. You're going to have to be feeding that calf until you can get it grafted onto a nurse cow, or sometimes the calf didn't want to suckle and the mother has kind of walked away from it, figuring, okay, if you're not going to eat, you're going to die, I'm pretty much washing my hands of you. So things you need to have on hand: the bottle, of course. You also want to have at least some colostrum replacer. This can be picked up at most feed stores. This one here, the Save a Calf, is a pretty good brand and does a real good job. I've had success with it. But like I said, you may have a calf who refused to suckle, and if so, that bottle is going to be worthless to you. So you need to also have on hand, bingo, a stomach tube. Okay, you basically put that down the animal's throat and force feed it its colostrum. Colostrum is critical to that calf's well-being. The likelihood of that calf passing away without it is pretty strong. Now, one of my favorite ways of doing this is to utilize a nurse cow. When I breed back a nurse cow, after her newborn calf has ate, I will then go out there and milk a couple of quarts off of that cow to get a couple of quarts of colostrum, and I'll freeze that. That way I have that frozen colostrum on hand to feed to a calf that has been orphaned. The biggest trick is a dairy cow. They're very easy to handle. If you try to go out and milk a beef cow who is not used to being handled like that, has lived most of its life out into the pasture and so forth, you're going to be dealing with a 1,000-pound or better, and usually, they're 1,200 to 1,500 pound cow who is going to reject what you're going to try to do to her as far as milking colostrum out of her. Okay? I'll just tell you that firsthand. Sometimes if you absolutely are in a bind, if you've got a head gate and available to you, you can utilize that to try to help hold them in place and to get enough of the first milking out of them to get some colostrum on hand. But I'm going to tell you what, it's a lot of work, a lot of hassle, and it is dangerous. These girls grew up out there. Their human contact has mainly been getting their head petted or to get fed, not to be milked. All right? So you've walked out into the pasture, you found this little one out there. You have approximately 12 hours from the time it was born to save its life, literally. Because that little calf, after 12 hours, is no longer really going to be able to absorb the antibodies from that colostrum. It begins to greatly reduce the amount of antibodies it can absorb once it hits that 12-hour mark. So you're in you're under a time gun. You're in a race for that calf's life. It's the difference between having a nice, healthy, happy calf that you can graft onto another cow and, during that 12-hour period, get the colostrum in it. It protects it from the diseases and scours and things of this nature. Without that colostrum in it, that calf is vulnerable to every virus out there around. Okay? It's the difference between a healthy calf or walking out into the field and finding a calf laying there dead. Usually about after the calf's been around for about about 2 or 3 weeks is when it catches up to them. So you've already bonded somewhat to this calf, and now it's gone. So it's something you want to get on. Like I said, you've got that 12-hour magic window. Done right, bonding cows and calves together, they form a tight bond. Even though it's an adopted calf and the mother will care for that calf every bit as matter of fact, sometimes even better than it cares for its own calves. They form a very tight bond, but it's all in the way you do it. And that's what I'm going to start talking to you about. Here's where it separates. The newborn calf that's orphaned, you're going to have to deal with the colostrum problem and to keep the calf alive and healthy. After that, bonding is all the same. Now, like I told you earlier, the big secret is the smell. Once you can get a calf to drink from its adopted mother and nurse from her, within a couple of days, that aroma of her milk and her body starts passing through that calf. All right? She now goes, oh, that smells like mine. And you will start seeing her get more opened up to it. That first couple of days are going to be tough. Now, that's one of the reasons I like to keep colostrum from the nurse cow frozen so that I can utilize that colostrum to start feeding that calf day one. It speeds up the time frame that that calf begins to smell like its future mother. She will try for the first few days to get rid of that calf. She'll try to kick it off. She wants nothing to do with it. So you're going to have to put them in a confined area together. You're going to have to work with them. You're going to have to hold her in place while you get that calf to start nursing on her. The calf, if it's nursing good, will nurse on her once you get them together. But mama is, the adopted mama is the one who's going to have a bit of a problem with it, because she's not one to take on that calf. To her, that's a strange animal. One of the ways you can help with that is take a damp rag and wash mama down thoroughly with that damp rag. Okay? Really wash her down, udder everywhere. Then take that same rag and rub that calf down with it. Okay? That's some of the old timers' tricks for how to get that calf to smell more like her. Like I said, the smell is its main bonding agent, where that cow begins to go, oh, that's my calf. It smells like me. Smell is also how the herd recognizes it, who that calf belongs to. All right? So how that calf smells is very important. So for the first couple of days, you're going to have to get out there and really work with them until you'll start seeing where eventually she'll get to where she'll let that calf nurse. Once that calf starts nursing, watch them for a day or so, and if that calf is nursing on a regular basis and that cow's not trying to kick her off, congratulations, you've just grafted a new calf onto that nurse cow. At that point, you can turn them back into the pasture, and suddenly you have these happy little pairs out there running around. And she will take good care of that calf. You don't have to be bottle feeding twice a day and things of this nature. That adopted mother will now take care of that calf. Pretty simple process, okay? It really is. If you just use your head a little bit and follow the simple steps. You want to get colostrum in it within the first 12 hours, mandatory. I never buy a calf from auctions under 30 days of age, because if they didn't get the colostrum within the first 2 or 3 weeks, that's probably going to show up and you're going to end up with a sick and dying calf. So if you watch what you're buying and you bond those two together, you're going to have a great deal of success with it. And, it's a good money maker. I always recommend everybody keep that nurse cow. Have a good one.